Welcome one, welcome all to this online business briefing, and we're joined today by Tara Minerals Corp. The company's traded under the ticker symbol TARM. We are joined by a couple of guests. We'll start today with David Barefoot. He's the Chief Operating Officer of the company. David, how are you today?
Doing great, Stuart.
Thank you so much for calling in here today. We look forward to learning so much more about Tara Minerals Corp. Now, you and I have a little bit of a background. We welcomed you on to our online mining and mineral conference last spring. Had a tremendous response to that. But for those who may not be familiar with the company, if you would, give us the Tara Minerals Corp story.
So, quick flyby, Stuart. We are a junior miner that has positioned ourselves for production over the last 5 years. We've built a portfolio of assets, over 25,000 acres in the lower Sierra Madre, all in a district that enables us to focus our efforts. Those properties, there's 34 different concessions within that region. We fully own a $9 million mill and the property that it sits on to be able to process the different metals there. Those properties are rich in gold, silver, zinc, lead, and then also now iron ore is an area that we're moving forward in as well.
David, you said a word in there that piques the interest of anybody who's investing in mining and mineral companies, and that's the word production. Can you elaborate on that?
I can. I'm glad you asked, Stuart. It's, some would say, a unique focus back a few years ago, now becoming more vogue. Our founder had looked at our opportunity in the region that we were in, and instead of going after raising tons of money, heavy dilution, going exploration, trying to prove up massive amounts of reserves before going after production, he focused on low debt, low dilution, and going after production. So we're in a position now where we've got the mill in place, the properties in place, and our first metal that we're going to move into production this third quarter, we're setting up to go into production. So the fourth quarter will experience cash flow from the sale of iron ore. So iron ore will be our opportunity to generate revenue. We'll then use that revenue to advance our the Don Ramon region where we have our gold, silver, zinc, and lead. Stuart, the other cool thing about that is out of the 1,700 some odd junior miners, less than 3% ever make it into production. So for us, it's a very exciting time because it's our opportunity to kind of cross over into the next big stage, if you will.
Big news for the listeners and the investors that are listening into this. That's terrific. Thanks so much for that, David. Well, David, in reviewing the press wire and going back through the filings that the company has done with the SEC, I see a very significant deal with Yamana. And listeners, if you'd like to follow along, use that ticker symbol again, TARM, and find it on the press wire. It came out Wednesday, May 30th. David, if you would, tell us more about this deal with Yamana.
Yeah, Stuart, the Yamana deal is exciting for us for two reasons. One, it gives us cash now and then cash into the future. And two, that cash is obviously key for us going into production. There's up to $35.6 million, between $25 and $35.6 million for the sale of what we call the Picacho groupings. We got $7.5 million up front. That cash is in the bank and enabling us to go into production. And then in less than 12 months now, there's another $9.8 million payment that Yamana would make. And then from there, it will range, as I said, a total of from $25 million up to $35.6 million based on the ounces that they prove up on the property. Big point, though, for us is that cash in the bank is one of the legs of the stool, if you will. Obviously, got to have great properties. We had that. Got to have the cash to move forward. And then the other key is expertise, and that was something that Tara has been excited to expand in the last year as well to prepare for this season of going into production.
Big news for the company, listeners. Game changer, if you will. That's terrific, David. Thanks for your input on that. So, David, I see another press release out on the wire, and listeners, again, use that ticker symbol TARM, and this release has to do with the acquisition of Champion Iron and Ore. Now, this company is somebody that you had 100% acquisition of, so I know you've released some information about what's in the ground down there. Tell me a little bit about this PR.
This release is just a continuation of an exciting project we have down there that gets us into this iron ore production. Champion is a project we were already working on, but it was under a lease with the concession owner, and that lease was going to be costing us $5 a ton. So this purchase has a big impact on our margins, and that it also just enhances the overall long-term potential of the project. So we were excited about just letting the world know that this project continues to get better, both in our structure as a company, but then also in what we're finding as far as the potential, which I know Steve could speak to a little bit better as well.
Well, let's welcome to the show the chief geologist for the company, Steve Edie. Steve, let's get your input on this acquisition.
You bet, Stuart. Thanks, David. I'm really excited about the Champignon deposit. It's a great iron ore deposit. Our work so far has demonstrated that it's at least 40 meters wide, and we can follow the structure probably 1.5 kilometers on strike. And there has good potential for it to extend in potentially all directions. And there's a real good grade in the ore. We've sampled it in numerous places. It runs anywhere from 62 to 68% in the high-grade zones, and probably the overall vein would average above 58% when we get through with our concentrating.
So, Steve, you're also a recent addition to Tara Minerals. Let's talk a little bit about your background and the decision why you came over to Tara Minerals. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, thanks, Stuart. I came over because I was asked to go down and look at some properties in Mexico, and when I was there, I couldn't help but think back through the years of my 30 years of experience with Phelps-Dodge Mining Company and Freeport Mining Company, and I have always been on the end of going into a mining district and working there where I could look at it and see, man, what would it have been like 100 years ago looking at all these deposits that are here that are all brand new and none of them developed. And while I was in Mexico, and that's been a year ago now that I've been coming down to visit and work in Mexico, I looked at it and I said, this is really that opportunity. For the first time in my life, I'm present in a district that has almost no development present on it. And I just thought this could really be a great way to go into the last years of my career and maybe work and bring this district together and pull it like a real geologist would like to do, where you could work with all of the different deposits in the district and produce a great mining district.
Great input. Thanks so much for that, Steve. Well, David, back to you. You've had a great addition here with Steve Edie. Let's talk about the Tara Minerals team.
Well, Steve is a great addition. In fact, he came with similar timing with Tom Claridge, who's a great mining engineer that's helping oversee the setup of the mining and the engineering side of this Champignon project, and then we'll also help with the expansion of the Don Ramon region as well. And then our Ramiro Treviso, who heads up Mexico. We've just got the right team now, which is something that we believe the properties along with the right team, and then, of course, the capital, is what would position us to really break through and become the next great mining company. Steve, one thing that was exciting for me to watch Steve over this past year, since April of 2011, he's been down visiting the properties, either when I would be down there or when he would come back. He would be more excited each visit over the prior visit, and finally came back not long ago, I guess it was fall of last year, and said to me, you know, this is like the Morenci district in Arizona, which is one of the most prolific mining districts in all of North America, and he told me this vision, and we always believed the properties were great, but having kicked the rocks down there, done the geological work, and feel like, you know, this really is a next great mining region to be developed, you know, here on the earth, was exciting. In fact, he came and asked for his compensation plan to be restructured with more back-end incentive, which says a lot about him and our whole team. We really have a tight-knit team that's excited about that kind of an opportunity to do something great in a great industry.
Well, listeners, you can hear the excitement in the management's voice here at Tara Minerals, and that's something you need to grab onto. David, back to you. Let's look at the rest of the quarter and the rest of the year for the company, Tara Minerals. Give us your outlook on the company going forward.
Well, the Q3 is all about going into production, and for us internally, it's an exciting time because I call him our founder, Rich Biskin, our CEO, sold me a vision from day one that we were going to, you know, take a production approach, and he was ahead of his time, I believe. Now all focus is on producing companies or near-term producing companies. Q3 we go into production with a focus of between now and the end of the year getting actual cash flow moving consistently, and then we'll take that cash flow to go back into our core business, which is the, again, prolific region that we call the Don Ramon region, over 25,000 acres of high levels of gold, silver, zinc, lead. There's even copper there as well. And we're talking high grade, Stuart. We certainly, I know our time is limited, but, with silver, we're talking 400 to 600 plus grams per ton, high grade zinc, high grade lead. And then the gold is an area, obviously, that we are incredibly excited to do more work as well. So we see Q3 going into production, Q4 showing cash flow, and then we take that cash flow to really kind of explode the company into its core business and take our existing fully owned mill that's set up with 3 circuits for the silver, zinc, lead, and go into production there as well.
Well, David, thanks so much for your insight once again on your exciting company. I'm an accountant by trade, so let's do a little housekeeping. Let's learn about the numbers for the company. Talk to me about the capital structure.
Well, just to keep it real brief, Stuart, there's around 67 million shares outstanding. We are, in a position where there's a $30+ million market cap. We think we're incredibly undervalued, and that, for 2 reasons. People, we're not really that well known, and therefore people don't know that we're on the brink of this crossing over from junior miner hoping to be in production someday to one of the next great mining companies that's in production and producing profits and growing those profits quarter after quarter, year after year. So I would say from a structure standpoint, we believe we're positioned to really drive shareholder value considerably with the announcement of production and then growing profitability into the future.
Well, listeners, once again, we are speaking with Tara Minerals, and specifically the Chief Operating Officer, David Barefoot, and the Chief Geologist, Steve Edie. As I said earlier in this audio interview, you can hear the excitement around these people, around these projects. Something to really take a look at. Go back, review that press wire. Some significant announcements just in the past 2 months that are game changers for this company, propelling them, as David put, from junior miner to full producing company, and that's the key word, production. And we're on the cusp of it here with Tara Minerals. Great time to be looking at that ticker symbol again, TARM. David, thank you so much for your time here today.
Stuart, thank you.
And Steve, thank you as well for coming on and giving us your insight into these exciting properties.
You bet. Thank you, Stuart.
Well, for the team at Tara Minerals and myself, Stuart Smith, we'd like to all thank you so much for listening. So good investing to you out there.